Millions of people around the world have sung the hymn, Amazing Grace. Its words echo through churches, concerts, and quiet moments of reflection. But very few people know the extraordinary story behind those powerful lyrics. The man who wrote them was not always a man of faith. In fact, he once lived a life that many would consider dark and deeply troubling. He was a sailor, a rebel, and for a time, a man involved in one of history's most painful trades. Yet from that broken life came one of the most beloved hymns ever written. This is the remarkable story behind the hymn, Amazing Grace. The story begins in England in the year 1725. A boy named John Newton was born in London. His father was a sea captain who spent much of his life sailing across the oceans. But his mother was very different. She was a deeply religious woman who hoped her son would grow up to become a minister.
Come sit, I must teach you the word of God. I wish for you to become a man of God.
She taught him Bible verses and
Let's sing from
hymns
the
while
hymn
he
book,
was still
dear.
young.
Yes, Mama, which one? All creatures great and small.
But tragedy struck early. When John Newton was only 7 years old, his mother died, and with her death, the spiritual guidance that once shaped his childhood slowly faded away. As a teenager, Newton followed in his father's footsteps and went to sea. Life on the ocean was harsh and dangerous. Sailors faced violent storms, disease, and brutal discipline. Newton quickly developed a reputation for being rebellious. He mocked authority, ignored orders, and often found himself in trouble. At one point, he even deserted the Royal Navy. For this act of defiance, he was captured and publicly flogged before the crew. Humiliated and angry, Newton drifted deeper into a reckless life. The sea had hardened him, and his faith seemed long forgotten. Eventually, Newton became involved in the transatlantic slave trade. It was a brutal system that transported enslaved people across the Atlantic Ocean. Ships were crowded, conditions were terrible, and suffering was immense. Newton worked aboard these ships, witnessing the horrors of this trade firsthand. At the time, he did not yet realize how deeply wrong it was. Like many others in that era, he accepted it as a part of life at sea. But events were about to unfold that would completely change his heart. By his mid-20s, Newton's life had become chaotic. He drank heavily, he argued constantly, and he seemed to drift from one difficult situation to another. At one point, he was even abandoned on the coast of Africa, living in near slavery himself. His life seemed to be spiraling downward. But the most dramatic moment of his life had not yet come. It would arrive in the middle of the ocean during a storm that nearly destroyed his ship. In March of 1748, Newton was aboard a ship sailing through the Atlantic Ocean. Without warning, a massive storm erupted. The waves rose higher and higher. Water crashed across the deck. The wind screamed through the sails. At one point, a powerful wave swept a crew member overboard. Everyone on the ship believed they might die. Newton himself was thrown across the deck by the force of the sea. The ship was filling with water, and it seemed certain that the ocean would claim them all. In that terrifying moment, something unexpected happened. Newton cried out, not to the crew, not to the captain, but to God.
God, please help us. The storm grows too strong. Have mercy!
He prayed a desperate prayer for mercy. It was the first sincere prayer he had spoken in years. Miraculously, the ship managed to survive the storm. The damaged vessel struggled on through the night, but for Newton, something inside him had already changed. That storm became the turning point of his life. Newton did not become a different man overnight, but slowly, over time, his heart began to change. He began reading the Bible again. He began reflecting on his past and the life he had lived. Eventually, he left the sea entirely. Years later, he became a minister in the Church of England. And as he looked back on his life, he realized how much grace had shaped his story. Grace that had rescued him. Grace that had forgiven him. Grace that gave him a second chance. In the year 1772, Newton wrote the words to a hymn for a church service. Those words would later become the hymn we now know as Amazing Grace. The opening lines captured his entire life story. A man once lost, now found. A man once blind, now able to see. The words were simple, yet deeply powerful, and over time, the hymn spread far beyond that small church. Eventually, it became one of the most famous hymns in the world. Today, the hymn Amazing Grace continues to be sung across the world. Its message is timeless. It reminds us that no life is beyond redemption, that even those who have made mistakes can find forgiveness and transformation. For John Newton, grace was not just a word, it was a reality that changed his life forever. And through the hymn he wrote, that message continues to inspire millions. A reminder that even in the darkest moments, grace can still find us. Amazing grace, indeed.